Hello, all you fine, beautiful, wonderful people. This is Wayne the Musical Hermit here, and today I'm going to be doing it, people. You voted for it, you wanted to see it. I'm going to be giving you my top 10 songs by Jeff Beck. One thing I have to get out of the way just before we get into this, absolutely love Jeff Beck after listening to him, listening to his whole career. Reason why this video took so long to do is because there was so many good songs that were in contention. And I originally had probably about 50 songs. I brought it down to the book to be about at least 30 some songs and then whittled it down from there. Uh, just an absolutely fantastic guitar player. His use of fusing different styles together is immense. Whether it be his use of going from like blues, hard rock, going into like jazz fusion, going into almost prog kind of keyboard driven sounds, electronic instrumental. Like Jeff Beck is one of these guitar players that, as I was listening to, is constantly evolving. But and I have to say, if you haven't checked out his three, I want to say electronic albums from 99, 2001, 2003, that period, definitely check it out. Because talking about guitar players fusing guitar with electronica, I don't think I know very many, or at least I've heard very many that have done it as well, is Jeff Beck. But anyway, let's get into this. Let's start off with song number 10 from the album Beckola, Spanish Boots, a great hard rocker. Features the great Rod Stewart on vocals and the great Ronnie Wood on bass. Like listening to this, it's a shame these guys didn't stick around longer or do much more with one another. I understand personalities, but this whole Beckel album is fantastic. And even the Truth album, the one before that, really good. This is the first one that I guess would be considered the Jeff Beck group. I didn't really change any of that because pretty much Jeff Beck is the main focus. So it's not like Roger Waters where you could separate the Pink Floyd and Roger Waters. With Jeff Beck, it's really difficult to do. So yeah, number 10, Spanish Boots, great hard rocker. Really is one of those things that shows off Rod as a vocalist. Uh, Absolutely love Jeff Beck's guitar playing on this whole era. Like Jeff Beck, fantastic. On to song number 9, which some people might say is kind of low on my list. I love it. It's a great jazz track, Scatterbrain from Blow by Blow. That whole Blow by Blow album is absolutely fantastic. If you ever wonder what Jeff Beck would sound like as a jazz musician, this is it. And the drumming, the pace, just it really feels very scatterbrained, like it's frenetic. The energy of it is amazing to really listen to, step back, listen to it, hear it, take it all in. That whole album of Blow by Blow, which I believe, I could be wrong, but if I remember correctly, it's all instrumental. That whole instrumental period of Jeff Beck, when he goes into kind of that jazz fusion stuff, is really damn good. And the more and more I listen to Jeff Beck, I'm like, Jesus, this guy, he was on a whole different level. Like coming out of the Yardbirds and stuff, Jeff Beck. What more can say about him? He is fantastic. That was a great song. On to song number 8 from his album Who Else? Brush with the Blues. This was a really interesting song because it kind of did fuse his electronica phase with the blues. And there's something about Jeff Beck, the emotion he can portray out of a guitar is nothing short of amazing. And listening to him constantly play and evolve, and to hear him kind of here, like For me, this is kind of one of those eras where he does go back to his bluesy roots a little bit, and you listen to the textures of it and the compositions. I know Jeff Beck is a fantastic guitar player, but I think the one thing he deserves a heck of a lot more credit with is his compositions and his composing skills and his ability to let other people shine. But this whole album, I remember going into this, I was very skeptical, but by the time I came out of it, I was absolutely floored with the quality. Song number 7, Star Cycle, From There and Back. This is a song Jeff Beck wrote with Jan Hammer of Mahavishnu Orchestra, Miami Vice theme. And yeah, it's one of those, very much feels like one of those 80s, it was 1980s, so it's kind of like one of those synthy kind of albums. I wouldn't say necessarily synthy, very keyboard driven. But the use of Jan Hammer and Jeff Beck works well. Like having Jan kind of setting the mood there with those just synthesizers and stuff. I was blown away listening to the song. Like, once again, I'm like, I've never heard this album before. Came out of it very much impressed. All these albums, definitely go check them out. They're definitely worth the price of admission, or at least buying them. And even on Spotify, just checking them out, getting more people into Jeff Beck, and especially this period. I know his famous stuff is really high up there, but go to some of these albums because everything on there is really high quality. On to song number 6 from the album Truth, Let Me Love You. I love this song. A great kind of bluesy, rocking song. Rod Stewart, man, if you love Rod Stewart, you're going to love this song. Really much so. Great guitar solo in here from Jeff Beck. It's interesting. First time I think I ever seen Jeff Beck play was actually in a movie called Blow Up. I believe it was directed by Michelangelo Antonioni. Great film. If you like 60s kind of counterculture films with a good plot, kind of a good premise behind it, I think Blow Up's a good movie. But to see him, and it was pretty much, I think it was him and Jimmy Page at the time. I'm pretty sure because I think Clapton was gone. And you're just seeing, I believe it's Jeff Beck just destroying this amplifier, that I believe is instrument as well. But back onto Let Me Love You, like I said, it's fantastic. Ron Wood on bass. Just one of those great blues rocking songs. And the great thing about Jeff Beck is nothing had to be overly complicated, but his tone was fantastic. On to song number 5. I believe this is the first time we get a second song from an album, but it's an amazing song. Because we ended as Lovers from Blow by Blow. Jeff Beck, like I said with, what's the other song? Brush with the Blues. The emotion Jeff Beck can emote from a guitar is very few could. I could see why David Gilmour cited him as an influence or somebody he found very always interesting to listen to, because that's how I find about Jeff Beck. Very few guys, whether it be Gilmour, Beck, very, very few handful of players, I think, could emote emotion through their guitar where you could hear it and feel it and just feel as if that guitar is talking to you. That's how I feel about Because We've Ended as Lovers. The use of his whammy bar on that song. Like, wow. The emotion, the harmonics, everything about this song, and it's a slow burner. And that's what I like about it. It slowly burns, but man, when it hits, that song is like, oh my god. Like, if you want to know like what you could call probably one of the greatest breakup instrumental songs ever, because we've ended as lovers, has to be up there. It hits that emotion to number 10. Uh, Song number 4 is the first time the album Wired has showed up on my list, and it's definitely Lead Boots. Love this song. It really, really was hard to really come up with the top 4 for me. Actually, this whole list was really, really hard. Once it got down to 4, I'm like, oh, where do I put certain songs? Because I think certain songs had to be on this list, and this is one of them. Jeff Beck, man, like that whole Wired album is fantastic. Lead Boots is the one for me that stuck out. Once again, he's in that jazz fusion space, and the more and more I listen to it, the more it's like, wow. Now, I believe both those albums were fully instrumental, and to be able to release 2 albums that quality, fully instrumental, it really speaks to the talent of not only Jeff Beck, but also the band members. And like I said previously, I want to make sure this gets very much brought to the forefront, is how Jeff Beck would always allow other people in the band to really have time to shine. And Lead Boots is a fantastic song with whether it be the keyboardist allowed to shine, Jeff Beck, the drummer, the bass player. It's fantastic. On to song number 3 on my list. This might shock a few people, it's this high. From the album You Had It Coming, Dirty Mind. I love this song. Jeff Beck, around this point, you have this great crunching guitar playing. Like, the great thing about Jeff Beck is he was always expanding and always doing something different. And these electronica albums, I absolutely adore. I'm not an electronica guy, I will say that, but listening to Jeff Beck do it was amazing. Because Dirty Mind, you have this great crunchy guitar playing. You have this lady in the background almost like mimic sexual noises, kind of moans and stuff. It's really an interesting song, and the more and more I've just delved into this, the more this song kept coming up as one that had to be on the list. There's so many more from those, like stuff like Hypnotica, Space for the Papa, Nadia, Rosebud. Oh, what else was on there? Yeah, I think that's like the big ones that really could have made my list, but the whole albums are really good. Even going to Jeff, that album really did, uh, really was great. On to song number 2 from my list, from the album Jeff Beck's Guitar Shop featuring Terry Bozzio, and I believe it's Terry Hymas, is Guitar Shop, the opening track. This song, very much, if you want to know, Jeff Beck 80s fantastic guitar, drums. Like, you have Jeff Beck working with the great Terry Bozzio. Bozzio played with Zappa. He played with UK, with Eddie, or John Wetton and Eddie Jobson in UK. That 3-piece, man, listening to this, I'm like, and then Bozzio gets this little spoken part throughout where he's kind of explaining what I want to say is like the record and all this stuff. And I'm trying to remember exactly what he's explaining, but it's really, like, I remember hearing it and I'm like, that works. I really enjoy that. And hearing his drumming, that's something that's really, it's very much the 80s drum sound in 89, that very gated drumming. But I have to say, if there's one guy I could listen to do it for extended periods of time, it definitely would be Terry Bozzio. Fantastic. And then you get Terry Hymas on top of that, fills out the sound. Fantastic. Like, really good. And now we're on to my number one song. And I was shocked after doing this that I put this at number one. But the more I thought about it, the more I'm like, I just cannot put it at number one. And that would be from the album Truth, Beck's Bolero. Great song. Fantastic song. My favorite by Jeff Beck. But any of these songs any day could be right up there. Like, this was a really hard list, and I know there's a lot of people probably saying, what about this song? What about this song? I could probably do this in a week and I'd have a completely different list. But yeah, Beck's Bolero is amazing. Like, to think you have Jeff Beck, you have Ronnie Wood, you then add John Paul Jones, and then you add Jimmy Page to this song. And I was listening to it, and it's absolutely gorgeous. It's beautiful. It's hard hitting. Really a great track. The more and more I've listened to this track, the more I've absolutely fallen in love with it. And very much as well with a lot of Jeff Beck's tracks is there is this kind of dance he does with me where it feels like, okay, just where I think I know where a song's going to go, he might change it a little bit. And I'm like, okay, that's interesting. And one thing you can say about Jeff Beck, you never get bored. And yeah, so that's my list of my top 10 Jeff Beck songs. I'd love to know your guys' list. If you stuck around this long, comment down below. Let me know. What are your top 10 songs by Jeff Beck? And are they in that same vein as me, or is yours completely different? One thing I do ask is just be respectful in the comment section with everybody and just have a great time. Like, these are great lists. I love doing them. They're very subjective, and that's what I love about it. Sorry this got a little long. I think this is probably going to be about my length, is about 20 minutes for these, because some of these I might go into a lot more detail in the future. I'm just trying this out now. Like I said, these lists are constantly changing for me. I've always kind of been different in my likes, my dislikes. Some people have always said, like, wow, that seems like a very random list, but that's just what I feel at the time. And like I said, give it a couple years or even 6 weeks, and this list could be completely different. But anyway, that's my thoughts and opinions. Love to know what you guys think. This is me here once again signing out. Thank you so much for watching. Peace.